Zlurpcast!
Welcome. Look at this shirt. I'm supporting Tabletop Minions. Biran says he's a patron. I want to see receipts, though. That's all I'm saying. Zlurpcast TV is live. Not really live. Live on tape in front of no studio audience whatsoever. Got some toys. They're watching. They're loving it. We got Xtreme. I'm not going to do the thing. We got Xtreme. We got Valdric. We got Biran. Marlon Barando. Biran's so far away. We cover games generally on the tabletop, mostly miniature games, sometimes board games, sometimes card games. But today we're going to talk about a lot of different games, like the types of games that are out there. All tabletop, no real video games in this episode. It's going to be a two-parter, so check out the second part for the types of games we don't cover. We'll talk about our likes and dislikes, pros and cons about all these types of games, and then also kind of talk about our favorites in that same genre as well. So I put the list out there. We got, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 to 12 or so. Want me to go down my list? Is that cool for you guys?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
The good ones are going to be in part 2. If that,
all right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Give people wanting more. Biran is the master of the edge. Like right there. Like, oh, nope. Dial it back, dial it back, dial it back. So let's talk about card games. We had a Super Show episode. So there's two types. Well, someone watching is going to say there's a lot of different. I know. There's a bunch of different like subgenres. But let's break card games down into a collectible card game, a game where you have to buy more stuff to get good bro. And then the type of card game that just comes out of the box. And I called it traditional, but then people are thinking like, I'm not talking about like poker. I'm talking about just like a game you buy off the shelf and it's all there. So we had a Super Show episode, wrestling card game. That maybe initially started off as a traditional card game. We realized, well, there's more cards. It's a collectible card game now. So let's start with collectible card game, okay? And there's a lot of them out there. There was a huge boom of collectible card games in the late 90s, early 2000s. Those are these ones where, you know, you might even go to a con, like Gen Con or Adepticon or something, and you see somebody closing them out, like clearance, because, like, it's over. I remember seeing, I know Netrunner's popular again, but, like, when it first came out, I played it, but I was, like, a year after it first came out, and it was already, like, you know, out and done already where I was. So I bought, like, a sealed box for, like, $5, you know, and shit ton of cards. That happened.
Is Netrunner considered collectible, or is that under the living card game?
Well, I want to put living card game with collectible.
Okay.
Where
you're buying expansions and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't want to break. I know what you're saying. So I will say this. Living card games, I mean, we could probably all agree on this, are better than collectible card games because living card game means you know what you get. You still spend money either way, but you know what you're going to get. You know what you need to get.
And there's a ceiling.
And there's a ceiling.
Once you spend this, you have everything.
For the month.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's not really, it's a ceiling for the month, but collectible card games, you don't know what you're going to get. So I'm going to put them together. So if you guys have one, it doesn't make, because both of them, to me, fit under the realm of you got to buy more stuff. Yes, to be competitive, but you probably also want to buy more anyway. As gamers, we don't ever want to be done when you know there's better stuff out there. You want to get something. So let's start with that one. Biran, are you prepared to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
My favorite traditional living card game, whatever we're going to call it, is Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Okay.
Superhero, non-licensed, and I'll explain why that's a good thing. Card game where it started with a base pack and then just expand. And expansions are usually more heroes and more villains and more environments to play in. Some people don't like the art style, think it's a little amateurish. I like it, but I'm not an artist.
You like everything, though.
Huh? Was that Mike?
Sorry, Mike.
I was gonna say Todd referred to it as Kickstarter art. You know, get your friend to do who's got some talent to do the art.
Looking down his nose, saying Kickstarter art.
Yeah, I mean,
but I know what you mean. It's a definite.
It's a style for sure.
It's a style. Yeah.
It's a webcomic level.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Here's the thing, though. When it comes to art, like if a new board game is talked about, it's now if you don't have like this level art, people start shitting on it. It's like, you know what? That doesn't really impact my love for the game at all. I mean, as long as it's decent, I'm fine. I don't give a shit if it's like, professional or, like a lot of games we've seen it. It's fine. And sometimes, and when we get to my pick for regular card game, I'll talk about the opposite of good art and why it's better to not have good art. So that game you're on, that was collectible or that was living?
It was living with just expansions. There was no blind packs or anything like that. And it was kind of a low budget place because like some of the expansions literally came in Ziploc bags, like the old DOS games you would buy from your local computer store. You come in a little Ziploc bag.
It's the best way.
Yeah.
Makes you feel like you're getting a little deal.
But because I go whole hog, I bought the super mega collector box that was like $100 of cardboard container to store stuff. That's another thing is the fetishization of organization of some of these games, which I think is weird, but I can also get behind in a strange way.
Well, and this is going to be kind of a roundtable. Let's we could mix our pros and cons within the games too. I think about, you're right, that remember the card game, it was based off of Steve Jackson's Illuminati role-playing game, but there was a card game that I played for New World Order. And I remember getting a box, like we bought starters, we bought some like, I don't know if they were exclusive, whatever. They came like, you had to get them separate, but then came out with one of everything. And it was its own box called One of Everything on the side of the box. And it later became pretty rare, but they knew that no matter what you had in your collection, well, of course you'd want a box of One of Everything because you get another one of the card you really like and maybe you filled some gaps. So that is kind of a weird, more on the collectible side than the living card game, but I gotta have it. You gotta have these moments of, I need to complete the collection, or multiples. It doesn't say one per deck or whatever. So you got multiples of that card.
Well, and Sentinels is, when you play a hero, here's your deck. There's no deck building. If you want to do something different, you play a different hero. And I like that because play pure is by default.
But you had to buy stuff to get more. I mean,
to get more heroes, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't one and done.
Yeah. I don't even know if they're even available anymore, but.
And so tell me the correlation with not licensed and why that was better.
The reason it's better, and this is probably a bad example, but the problem with a licensed game, especially if you go really in depth to it, is you don't know how long that company's going to have that license. They don't own the IP. A few years later, it's like, oh, we don't have it anymore. Guess this game you invested in is dead. Whereas if the company owns the IP, they can produce it as long as they want. Is
there a level of relief if a living card game dies because now you have everything?
Yeah, a little bit. And some like Sentinels of the Multiverse where it's a simple enough game that anyone can play it. I play with my wife. We play with our friends. So that one, I'm really I have so much of it that it doesn't matter if they ever release anything ever again because there's still heroes I've never tried. So,
do you still play today?
I haven't played in a long time, but I would for sure.
Okay. Very nice. Valdric, Xtreme, who wants to talk about their favorite collectible / living card game?
I don't really have one, so.
No? Okay. Xtreme?
I think mine might be blending the boundary between collectible and normal traditional card game. Killer Bunnies. Because it was, it had a ton of expansions, but they weren't necessarily like the living card game style. It was just building onto the normal game. But that would be my choice. I try to stay away from collectible card games because I have problems with control.
Let me ask you, Xtreme, as a fellow baseball fan, did you ever have the urge to get into Showdown? Do you remember that game?
I do remember it. I don't think I was doing a whole lot of gaming at that time, so it was easier to ignore. But
Is that when you were cool? You were cool then before you were a nerd?
I didn't say I was cool. I was probably, doing a lot of illegal activity and my mind was somewhere else.
I don't know why he's in. It's not your turn to talk.
Oh, I'm not talking. I'm just actually
showing his
normal.
big box.
Why is that smudge a penis on the top, by the way?
That lady, I sat down on it with my pants off.
Oh, yes. But it's spread down. That's why.
Yeah. Made it bigger than normally.
What box is that? Is that like the everything?
Yeah. Well, it's room for everything. It didn't actually come with any cards.
Oh, okay. So that's to put your collection in, you show it off and all that.
Yep. It's got drawers.
Fancy.
Intense. Wow. You got your own Biran decimal system and organization. the buoy. Very nice. Can Xtreme go now?
Oh, sorry. Didn't
Okay.
mean to steal your thunder.
So Showdown you didn't want to get into because a little before your time. If you were into it, you probably would have jumped in because it was actually a pretty fun baseball game. And they had stats pretty accurate on there. And that was one I bought a lot of stuff on, played a bunch, but then like with a lot of those, you jumped out. With Killer Bunnies, those. Oh, sorry. You want to talk about that?
Well, for baseball stuff, I think I definitely would have got all into that, and we'll probably cover some baseball stuff later that I was definitely all in on. But Killer Bunnies, no, it worked out great because I think when I got into the game, there was already like 4 expansions, but it wasn't super crazy. So we were like building as a group because we had a normal play group that was playing. So every couple of weeks, we would go ahead and open up a new expansion and toss it in. But then we got to a point where, that group stopped coming around, and I still have like 3 expansions that are still in the shrink wrap. So it's kind of disappointing, but it doesn't get played much. Because whenever I introduce someone to it, you can't introduce them with like everything. So it's like, all right, back to like the base plus 1 maybe. This is what the game is.
Well, and that's why it does blur the line because while you could play out of the box, I mean, there was a lot of stuff out there to get for it. Is that something? I never played it. You used to run. Did you run games of that before tournaments and stuff?
I think there was a couple times we got it out. There's definitely one time that was memorable that we got it out.
Oh yeah.
Is that the one that Valdric has a personal connection to?
Yes, that was the one.
Can we tell the story or no?
Sure.
Is it safe for work?
No.
Okay, good.
So there were.
Okay. Go ahead.
So it was not the correct time to teach people how to play this game. They were all inebriated. There was some new players that were under the influence of things. But I attempted to teach them the new game. And then people were leaving, and then somehow my dog had crapped in the kitchen. And then there was someone leaving, and then there was a conversation of where someone said, she shit in the kitchen. And it was some blurred lines over if we're talking about the person that was just leaving the room or the dog or somebody else.
Was it
The person was Katie.
Mike,
Katie was the one
Katie got up to go to the bathroom, and then she came back, and then Amy, this other woman, went into the kitchen and came back and was like, "Did you shit in the kitchen?" And to this day, we still talk about that. So, and
what's
Katie
crazy
was one of the people under the influence, and she was overwhelmed, and I had no idea about the influence. So I was like, I was kind of into the game, but I'm like, okay, she wants to go, and
So, Mike, were you like the designated driver that night? You weren't.
I'm always the designated driver. Yeah,
drunk or not, he's the driver.
exactly.
What's weird is
So Katie did shit in the kitchen, is what we're saying.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
I've seen her shit. That was definitely hers.
same texture. Yeah.
That didn't come out of Luna, not at all.
Did you do a Braveheart? Did you taste it and go, hey, maybe tea?
This is the second time shitting on the floors has come up in this podcast because I talked about a 40K tournament where someone shit on the floor. That was a human shit.
Was it Katie that did it then too?
Maybe. I don't know. We never fought the culprit, so I don't know. Xtreme, so do you have separate games for when you're fucked up that you pull out?
I mean,
Like a if you're on meth, open that fucking drawer. Oh
Got
shit.
a little sign on it, if on
Yeah.
meth.
Like, yeah, it's got pictures.
I like to think that most of the time I am a good judge of, all right, this group of people can handle this game at this time, but sometimes I make a mistake.
Super Show, you can play wasted, that's for sure. That's a
Super Show, I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, you roll good, you win. High or not, you know? That's a good pick. I think that it does blur the lines, but it's still, you want to get all those things. I'll do mine, and I don't want to say Super Show because we've already covered it, and we all appreciate what that game is. But a game that I recently rebought, and I mentioned it before, and it's actually probably might be similar to Biran's. The difference is when I play the game Overpower, that's licensed by Marvel, then DC, then Image, and then it does fall more in the could this be any game skinned differently? Like we talked about that before, right? I think Xtreme, you brought that up. Maybe, but the base of the game, I mean, yes, when you're playing, you either play like a certain level 1 through 9 of power, intellect, strength, or fighting. Those could be other numbers in other games. But I will say this, every deck you make of every character, there are special moves in there, and it does feel like those are things from the comics that they've done. You know, like if you're playing Deadpool, it's got the katana, don't lose your head in it, whatever. Like they've got some cool things. So at times it could feel like anything, but there was enough in it that actually felt fun. And so that was my first big experience into collectible card games in the mid-90s. And I remember thinking about like friends I made at like tournaments at the comic book store. And it was just a lot of fun. And so about a year ago, I saw there was a guy on eBay that's got he's like the man with this game. Like it's so dead. It's beyond dead, years, 15, 20 years. But then there's one guy who's like the library. He's got it all. And he had some kind of crazy deal, like buy X amount. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get like a bunch to play. I showed Heather. She thought it was cool. And I basically just bought some starter decks, some packs. He had fucking packs still. You know, that's nuts when you got sealed packs from 97 ready to go. And then there was a line called, I forgot the name of it, but that was the really rare one. That one I'm like, fuck it. If I ever have to buy packs, they're going to be crazy. So I just bought the cards I wanted. But played it again to see. It was an experiment. I mean, I probably could have watched a video. I decided to spend a couple $100 as an experiment to see if I still liked this game. And it was still a lot of fun. It really was. You have 3 superheroes up front. You have 1 in the reserve. And they have a certain amount. I think it's 20 hit points till they die. Or if they have 1 of each type of hit on them, it's like a TKO of sorts. They're out from that. And so you're healing, you're doing stuff. But that game, I don't care now because it's me and my wife playing. But when that game was in its heyday, when it first came out, it was just like X-Men. Then it was everybody in Marvel. Then it was some DC. Then it was a lot of DC. Then it was like Spawn and all these other things. It was like the more you spend. This was pretty intense. I remember there was an alien symbiote card that was a heal a wound. And it should have said 1 per deck because it was that powerful. Didn't say it. So if you had 5 or 6 of those in your deck, you're good. You're going to win. I had 1 because I could only afford to buy 1 at the time. And it kind of sucked because you're just like, it takes some of the fun out of it. I don't mind spending a certain amount, but to go over the top. So that game, the reason why I want to bring that up again is it's something that I took a chance on. There have been many others. Besides Showdown, I remember playing, I think I mentioned before, like Highlander, Dune, Buffy, all these like IPs that were like Biran said, who the fuck knows where they're going to be in a year. But what I like to do is I like to jump on those when they're dead. Like the Buffy card game, I bought the last season of the show. And the game took place in like season 3. So it was awesome. I went to Gen Con and bought a bunch of sealed packs for super cheap, had a lot of fun. It was great. So I think there's that element of it, but to be in a collectible card game or a living card game when it's in its prime, like be ready to open up the wallets because that's just kind of how it goes. So I'm thankful that most of my experiences have been like when I was in it, I knew my boundaries because I wasn't fiscally in the right place anyway. And now that I may have money, I don't have to buy anything because I'm buying things that are old anyway. The last living card game I bought was probably Game of Thrones because me and Josh played it at work. And so that was fun. It was thematic. Way too much record keeping because now I put an attachment on you, you put it underneath, but it lowered one of my stats. Well, now I got to have everything fucking spread out because I don't know. And then you put markers on them. It was a fucking mess. And that was with 2 people playing. You're supposed to play with 4. So some of these card games just get out of control. I tried playing the Warhammer Quest card game. Mike, you and I bought that at Gaming Goat. And I played it once. I'm like, too much going on. It's way too many cards out there at once. I know that's the game, but why didn't have to be that much. So collectible card games, it's kind of like my skirmish beef. I want less stuff going on. I want less record keeping. I want less of all that. I think since we all kind of said ours, Mike didn't have one, but the pros and cons, I mean, we've kind of covered it. Besides being a game you think is cool, is there any real pro to a collectible card game besides just you liking it?
I think, well, if your collectible card game is Magic, it's like 40K. You'll always be able to go to a game store and find a game.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, a lot of people enjoy the deck building aspect of it. So,
yeah.
And I see the appeal of that. So,
and don't get me wrong, Magic is actually a good game that's enjoyable within limits. It's just deck building is not my favorite part of any of those games. I don't think I'm particularly good at it. So once you get to a certain skill level, it's at the point where I'm not going to win.
You know, it's weird. I've actually never played Magic. It's weird. You'd think I would have at some point. It was when I started going to junior college. That was what kids were playing at school. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to play Netrunner.
I'm different.
I know, exactly.
I play Turbo Graphics.
I know. My cartridges are like a fucking credit card. Bonk's Adventure, hello, Bonk meats, the tastiest of all meats. And so Magic, I remember it had like TV commercials and shit. Yeah. Like like an orc comes out of the screen or off of the card or something, and it kind of like died. I thought it died down. I thought it did. Maybe I was wrong, but it's bigger than ever now and has been for the last forever. Biran, was there ever a dead moment of Magic? Because I thought there was.
I think so. There were, like a string of expansions, I want to say early on, that were not very well received. Like after the alpha, beta, and then the first couple expansions, there's one called Fallen Empires that came out. And I remember it being bad enough that they gave a free booster box at Comic-Con in Chicago.
Wow.
Well, and I think it's still 1-0.
I think the community, though, like during a certain period started to kind of fade off because it was just who has the most money, but then they really got their organized play nailed down.
Yeah, and they have
so well now.
Something for every, like Pauper League, where you can only have commons or cards value a certain amount.
Is that sort of like that's like their play pure or no?
Their play poor.
Play poor.
Yeah.
So here's what I love about the genius of is it Wizards, right?
Yeah.
Here's what I love about the genius of this. I'm a rich kid. I have every fucking card. I got 3 of them all, whatever. Go to a tournament. What is it, blind buy or whatever you call it? Like you got to buy one at the store so we can all be at like even keel.
Yeah, they did drafts.
Yeah, blind draft.
Genius.
That is genius.
Oh my God. Like, could you imagine?
And the thing is, it's fun because it's a fair price and you have a chance of basically getting all your cards for free if you do well enough.
But I mean, think about that from a other games perspective. Would you ever fucking go along with that in any other game? Which, like, if we played, I know miniatures are hard because there's assembly, but I mean, even a game that has pre-assembled models.
Like the HeroClix and stuff. I'm sure they did something similar, but that seems both insane, but like genius level. But yeah, I also think it's not predatory because I think it's a good deal for everyone. Because you're not paying any more than you would for the cards anyway that you want.
And it really gives game stores an incentive to hold those events too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's a win around. Now, compared to other games though, like what happens at Grognard or other stores, most people want to support their store. I get it. But every now and then it's, hey, put that down. We got a thing online. We get to, you know.
Yeah, we know that guy.
I'm
friends with that guy, but I'm not.
Yeah, like put that down. Does that happen with Magic, or is everything set price?
The margins on Magic packs are so tight that you're not going to get that great a deal usually.
Yeah.
So, like a store that, well, if you have a game store, do you have to do Magic? I mean, Games Plus doesn't do Magic, do they?
They're a special case. They've
Okay.
been there so long that they can get away with it. They predate Magic.
Yeah.
But otherwise, do you think Magic's essential for any game store in this day and age?
Yeah.
Gives you something to do on Friday nights. It gives you a built-in event. You know, you're going to have people show up. Just open the doors.
Well, and all the stupid accessory bullshit you could sell on top of that, mats and things like that.
So what we just talked about is a pro of Magic. But in reality, with any other collectible card game, there's not really a pro of playing it other than, hey, I think it's cool. I want to play it, because you got to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
But there was one recently that I was tempted by, the Transformers card game.
Yeah, the art looked awesome on it.
Yeah, I was very tempted by it, but then I remembered that it's collectible card games and the finances that go behind it, and that I lack self-control, and I reminded myself I need to stay away from this. So I did.
I'm the same way, but with heroin.
Yeah.
You know, if you decide to get into heroin, though, Xtreme has the perfect game for while you're on it. I don't know what it is. I've never touched it.
Heroin. Let's go. Here, this is
War Machine. So let's move to the other types of card games, traditional, whatever you want to call it, non-collectible card games. I think we could all agree are generally, they're a lot easier to get into. They're a lot easier to get friends and family into. They're easier to bust open at a party or get together or whatever. And I would say in general, they're more fun because there's a whole lot less invested in it. Biran, we started with you last time. When it comes to like this, a non-collectible card game, what's your one or two go-tos on that?
I actually don't like those games.
Really?
I despise Cards Against Humanity.
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to do it. Let's do a party game category.
Okay.
I know it's a card game, but I want to put that in a party game category. I think that's different because that's for normies.
Well, I would say the traditional card games are for normies too.
Okay.
I don't know of any traditional card games I play.
Really? Okay. Valdric?
Well, I don't. Again, it's depends what you mean by traditional card game, but I like Smash Up.
I know that one.
Yeah. So I think it's fun. I think it's interesting to see the synergies that you can get. I think it's approachable. There are expansions, so it kind of toes that line between that and living and whatever.
You could play out of the box.
For sure. Yeah.
Oh, Munchkin is one I've played with.
Yeah, Munchkin's good.
I hate Munchkin.
No, if you don't like it,
it's too clever by half.
Yeah. And you get people that take it too. You don't know how to play that. You play it seriously. You play it for fun. And if the wrong people are.
Will we did a video on it? So does that change your?
Yes, I hate it.
I think I had the same problem Mike just mentioned with it, where you don't know how to play it. Because I like try to introduce it with my family, and we all like just try to play it straight laced. And it's like this is boring. Like I don't understand what all the hype is on this game.
That's why it's in the heroin drawer.
Yeah, I can see that. I think for me, those kind of games, that's a blurred line too. It's blurred line with party game. Not always, but I'm going to throw three out there. But it's weird because they're never ones I decide to actually, what? Oh, you're doing?
I'm going to, when you list them, I'll give a thumb.
Okay. First one, Lunch Money.
Yeah.
Because Mike said, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know what it is.
So, Lunch Money is great because the art is all these like little girls on a playground beating the shit out of each other.
Yes.
And so I go to roundhouse, punch you, you duck, I hit the next guy. It's a lot of like fucking people over in a circle kind of thing. I used to play that with the same group I played other games at the comic store, and we got into it. It was fun. Some people played it as a drinking game as well.
Yes.
That's to me really fun. Another card game that is it was a little more complex for busting out a party, but I think I brought it to Extremes a couple times. Remember Let's Kill? by I think Atlas Games, one of those. They make all those like cheap ass like $10 games you see like
Stacks up, yeah.
Stacked up like by
Impulse buy at the register.
Yeah. It's great. It's got the worst graphics ever because on purpose. They're all stick figures. So if you want to look up Let's Play, you'll see hilarious in there. You get like different points for killing different levels of people. So you kill a Girl Scout, you get this much. You kill a teacher, you get this much. You know, wholesome fun for the whole family. There's fun things to do in the game where you have I don't know if it was like a bomb or whatever. You actually drop the card, whoever it lands on, those people die. These are all things that I know Biran says are stupid, but because it was so bloody, so gory, so inappropriate, that was like one of the only ones of that style that I really liked to play. You can buy chainsaws and different weapons. You buy an ice cream truck, and you can run a lot of people over with that one, but it's hard to target that one person you want to kill. But I can kill a lot of people. That kind of shit. More on the fucked up side. So I'm going to give those two sort of honorable mentions because I've never really busted them out. I still have them both in a box somewhere. The next one, I was actually gonna put it in the board game group, but then I opened the box and forgot there's no board. Like, before we get into that, like, you ever see games? I mean, you would probably call it a board game or just a tabletop game. But then you open the box, there might be a play mat, but then you look and it's all cards. That's a card game, right?
Yes.
Right? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but if it comes in a box that looks like a square board game box, and it has all those things that looks like a board game, when you look and there's no actual board, there's no counters, chits, although this one does have little, like, it's a currency, but essentially nothing. So I'll put it as a card game. In Xtreme, I played this one with you once. You didn't like it because you're colorblind, though. It's called Viceroy. It's a great game that I kickstarted like 3 or 4 years ago. It was a Russian game that they brought to America. They did an update, but there's a bunch of different ways to win. You pull out, like, they're all square cards, just to be different. And they're all different, like, typical archetypes or archetypes.
Archetypes.
So like a warrior, but then like beyond like a knight or a king. Get them all, you draft them, you try to build a pyramid by basically things on the card. Sometimes it's matching colors, sometimes it's matching other things, or there's a bunch of different ways to win. You honestly have no idea if you're doing good or bad compared to your opponents until the game is over and you tally it up. I love that because you think you're doing awesome, and then you're like, oh, fuck. Like, you had all those because I thought you were going for a certain way to win, and I was going for a different way to win.
Sounds like similar to Citadels. Have you ever played that?
I didn't play that one. This one, the unique thing about this one, that even if it is similar to that one that they tried to make, was you build a pyramid with the cards. So your bottom row has like 5 cards, then 4, 3, 2, and 1. And as you go up, you have to pay a certain amount to do things at different levels, but you get different rewards as you build up. So you're trying to, you usually have to pick a certain way you want to try to win towards the beginning. Whether it's, I want to get one each, I forgot all the terms, but one each of the different things. Or I want to have just the most colors in one circle, whatever it is. And by the time you get to the pyramid, you don't have to make the final thing in the pyramid. You can get to maybe like to 2 or to 3 even, and still might win. But it's kind of a fun game. Good for 2 people, better with more, because the downside of 2-player is you can look at the pot of money that's out, not money, but there's like rubies and 4 different types of crystals. You look at what you have in your own bank. So now I know what my opponent has. If you did the math in your head and knew that there's X amount there, whatever. But that's the only flaw. But it's actually an extremely fun game. Really fun. So Viceroy, check that one out. Any other ones? So we had Munchkin, Viceroy. What about Bang? Xtreme Bang?
Sure, Bang's good. That borders, I don't know, I would say that possibly party game, but definitely card game.
I'm going to say, let's define party game. The sole goal is to just get laughs. Like, there's no theme of the game besides jokes. Is that a good definition?
Sure, then Bang's a card game. Bang would be on my list of good card games. I also had Pooh.
What game?
Oh, Pooh, yeah.
Pooh. P-O-O. Pooh.
Like turds?
Yeah.
I mean,
like what Katie did on the floor.
Hold on. Yeah.
Yeah.
How Xtreme? Serious question. How high do you have to be to play a game with your own shit?
It's not with your own shit. You're playing as
Somebody else's? That's even grosser. Ew.
You're playing as apes throwing shit at each other.
Oh. Got it.
So I enjoy that game. And Jaipur, I don't really know how to say it.
I know that one. Never played it though.
It's not strict card game because there is like resources and stuff that you buy, but the basic mechanic is cards. So I would call that a card game that I wrote. It's a 2-player game, so I really like playing that a lot with my wife. But yeah, those are my mentions.
I would also throw Splendor into that mix as well.
That's a popular amongst normies too.
Yeah.
Biran, thoughts?
I've never heard of it because I'm not a normie.
What's the rating on Board Game Geek for that one? 8? 8.5?
I don't know. That whole site's trash.
It's a bit of an old website, isn't it? Mike, why is that game great?
It's simple. I mean, you can teach someone how to play it in 5 minutes. You're building, again, it's kind of a resource management thing where you're getting these gems and then you got different amounts in your hand to get favor from, you get points basically by spending these gems. And you're competing with other people because sometimes you're going for this one thing and they're also going for it. And again, it's just real simple, fun little game. And there's a nice app for it on your phone or whatever too. So
nice.
Same thing with Jaipur. I played that mostly on my phone, and it translates really well. And yeah.
So pros and cons of that game. I mean, usually any of those games, cheap, easy to get into, easy to bust out. For me, cons on these kind of, the only one con in any of these games are that I have to show people how to play on the spot. Mm-hmm. And I always I hate that. Even though if it was like one-on-one at a game store and it was quiet, I could show anybody anything. But when you play these in social settings or at cons, I hate being the teacher at those. Do you guys like that role? Because that goes with all these games.
I'm typically in that role, so yeah. I appreciate when someone else is trying to teach me something. So, and I know what they're going through if I'm being dense and not understanding something basic. So, but yeah.
As a teacher,
I'm the one that has to watch the video. If we have game day, I have to spend the day before watching the playthrough video, and I'm always the game master.
I don't know. I think that's pretty traditional for gamers when they're introducing stuff to like their family members and stuff. Like first they know what their family can handle, but then they're also the one that's going to have to go through everything. Like, all right, this is how you play the game. Just bear with me. You're going to enjoy this game. Just don't get overwhelmed yet.
Yeah. That goes with the territory. I think if people who like that are usually, they don't mind doing that in those social settings. And I think that it's just if you like that role, you'll have more fun with these games. Otherwise, you're just a participant and want to play that. Any other discussion points on the card games, you think?
Yeah, they were good.
All right, card games covered. Ad nauseum, if you will. There's probably a card game called Ad nauseum. There was a book about, The Onion had a book called that too. Do you guys like dice games? That's a category. Can we talk about dice games? I think we should.
Absolutely. I like rolling dice.
Okay. Rolling dice as the sole mechanic in the game, Xtreme?
There is a game, at least, that I like, King of Tokyo.
Oh, I thought you meant Super Show.
You're wrong, Biran. That's a die, not dice. Thank you.
But King of Tokyo, I enjoy a lot. It's kind of Yahtzee-esque monster attacking game.
Are there like images on the dice or something?
Yep. Yeah, and you're rolling. You get three. The reason it's Yahtzee-like is because you have 5, 6 dice, but you're rolling in 3 rolls, so you can choose which ones you roll, but you get 3 rolls total. So very much like Yahtzee, but then you're trying to attack the other monsters that are in the city or take over the city and earn points and kill all the other monsters.
I know you've busted that game out like at an ex-con before Zlurpee Bowls. I walked by that box at game stores. It looks really cool. Is there a level of disappointment in general when you open up a box, even though you know it's a dice game, and you're surprised that it's just dice inside when it should have been like, hey, asshole, that's literally what you bought was a game with just dice. But every time it's like, oh, like there's like a, half the box is placeholder, like the folded box. And then it's like cutouts for all the dice.
Well,
That's it.
For that game, there's a good stack of cards that you have as well.
Okay.
And cardboard counters of all the monsters. So there's enough going on in the box. There's actually a small board, so I guess you could say it's a board game.
I'm going to let you call it dice game, but it's a card and dice combo. Would you say
it's mostly dice? I would say it's like 90% dice.
Yeah, it's all the mechanics are based on the dice, and
isn't there a better card and dice game combo that comes in like a black box that's like a lot of silver on it?
I don't know if you know
that game. It was on Kickstarter. The guy who put it together was a douche.
Was he super attractive though?
No, his friend is.
Oh.
Death Path is out there as a classic. Like how this on Board Game Geek, it has like a fucking 9, but yet it says NA, not enough, results. And Mike would know, not enough in the sample size. You know what I mean? Because it's like 6 people I know that all gave it. So combo game there, but mostly dice on King of Tokyo. There was a game, what's the Star Wars dice game that came out a couple years ago?
Destiny?
I bought the starter, didn't even fucking play it.
No, same.
I rolled the dice just as a goof, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I packed it up and brought it back to Grognard for like $1 in credit. Like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm not going to buy, like, when you're into Star Wars and you have games like Legion, Imperial Assault, and you have even card games, I'm not going to buy a fucking die with Anakin's face on it. It ain't going to happen. Why the fuck did I buy this game? The box drew me in. I opened it up. I'm like, oh, dice. Yeah, idiot. There's dice inside of a dice game. What did you expect? I don't know why I buy dice games and get disappointed every time.
Well, isn't that a blind bag game too, where you buy blind bags of dice?
Not in the starter, or when you
the expansions and stuff, you buy more dice and they're blind.
So was it the Dice Masters, the comic game that was like that too?
That sounds familiar. I don't remember what that was.
That sounds better than Star Wars already.
I think it was called Dice Masters, but it was like a collectible game, and it was like Marvel.
I think it is. I think it's the same mechanics.
Okay. Yeah, I think.
Comment below if you guys remember or correct us if we're wrong. I think it's the same game.
I know somebody watching now is going to say these 4 jagoffs don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, guess what? I'm saving the stuff we're really into for later. You know what kind of games we talk about. So it's not a surprise that we don't know the name of every dice game out there. Doesn't matter. I'm going to tell you the name of a dice game that I played, also in my formidable/formative years, and that is Dragon Dice. You guys remember that?
Oh, yeah.
TSR, I think. And that was a game that when my friend Paul, like I met him through a friend in a comic store, and I'm like, hey, there's this guy that's got some rares, oh shit. We met in his driveway because his parents were sleeping, and he was going to sell me some rare Dragon Dice. That's when I knew it's like, you know what? Some guys want to get the nice car and try to get the girls and all stuff. I'm like, you know what? I'm buying Dragon Dice in a fucking driveway. Like, come on. The dice had various types of goblins and other creatures carved into them. Looked fucking terrible. And that, like, the types of what do you call it? Like, not like the dice, like the colors, like it's like swirls and shit. Made it even harder to read sometimes. But you just chuck a bunch of dice and you do different things. I don't remember even how to play. I'll never play again. That was the last time I had legit fun with a straight up dice game, as in no accessories, straight dice. I mean, outside of that, there's so many better options for a tabletop game of all these other categories than just straight up dice games. And I know someone's thinking, what about fucking whatever? Like, the dice come inside of a barrel, and then there's probably all that quirky shit. That's fine, but I'm not buying it. Valdric, you have a dice game that you love?
There's a couple of them, but again, they're hybrid kind of. The main mechanic is still dice. Elder Sign. It's a Cthulhu-based. It's basically Cthulhu Yahtzee. But you still have different characters. They have different abilities. But again, it's all based on how many of these symbols can you get after 2 rolls to try to shut these gates, and you got to get these. I forgot what they're called. You got to get elder signs. So if you go through these, you successfully roll these symbols correctly, and you'll get these elder signs, and you get 10 or 12 of them. You can close the gate, and the great old one doesn't come through, and if not, then so. But again, it is still a little bit of a hybrid, like King of Tokyo, where you do have different characters with different abilities, but you're still all rolling the same dice.
Yeah, like you're right. They're hybrid games, but when you roll a bunch of dice, and that is how you determine everything, to me, those are dice games.
Yeah, yeah.
And funny thing is, like, as much as I don't like dice games, when I had 2 ideas initially for Death Path. One was a straight up dice game. It was a gladiatorial combat dice game where different weapons are different dice, and then the other one was cards in a maze, and I just put them together. But I probably thought, I don't know, subconsciously, whatever, like, who the fuck wants to just buy dice? I know it's crazy because everybody watching right now loves dice. There's people that have like dice shrines in their house, and they have like a special case they open with their D&D dice, and it's in a fucking
wormwood
it's in a fucking wood case they bought on Etsy, a little pouch. You know what I mean? I get it. It doesn't do it for me. Rolling dice is fun, but that can't be the only thing for me.
There's another one called One Deck Dungeon.
I know that.
Again, a little bit of a hybrid, but you have an adventurer, and they've got 3 stats, and there's 3 different colored dice, and you have to complete quests or kill monsters, and you need X amounts of each color. And then there's also a wild die, which are the black. And so there is some resource management. And
some of that one, I don't even know if I would call that a dice game. I might call that a dungeon crawler, straight up.
Yeah, but again, everything you're doing is with dice, though.
Yeah.
But it is a dungeon. You're killing monsters and all of that. But again, it's a hybrid dice dungeon crawler. But it was surprisingly. I do a lot of. I'll do this, and I'm not there, but then I can try manipulating some other things and attack. I actually put more thought into it than than you do with a lot of dice games. It's like, I didn't get 3, I'm done. So
yeah, makes sense. Biran, do you have any?
Yeah, I have one. It's called Railroad Inc.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a dice game, but you roll the dice have roads and railroads on them, and different patterns like L shapes or crosses. And your goal is to make the most complex yet complete railroad and or highway path across the board that you draw in. And it's shared dice, so one person rolls and then everyone uses the same pool of dice. And I found it on Kickstarter, the new version on Kickstarter, so I went and bought the old version because I didn't want to wait for the Kickstarter one to come. And it's a very well designed game. I recommend it.
You're a train guy too.
It's in my blood a little bit. Like, I love the idea of like a model railroad layout.
Are you an HO or N guy?
I don't know what an N guy is.
And is smaller, half the size.
No, Biran's trying to make a bad joke.
I'm an O scale, and the reason I'm O scale is because that's the same scale used in Marvel Crisis Protocol. So I've been buying railroad model buildings for dual purpose.
I bought a real shitty train set that might have been like Wild West kind of scenery in there. It's really bad, but we're going to repaint it. Some little 8-year-old kid in a third world country did the best he could. And guess what? I'm only a little bit better.
And that's just not good enough. He should be punished.
He should be. Or punish myself. Let's, Xtreme time-wise, should we do 2 more or 1 more?
1 more.
Okay. Let's do, this is the finale of part 1 here. For many of us on this show, this is a huge type of game that we all love. Let's talk about skirmish miniature games. This is Biran's like guaranteed boner. You know, his group, they see the next one, they're like, boing, and they can't wait to get those models. If you want to throw out more than one as favorites, totally fine. Before we get into our favorites, though, So this is a definitely a different side. We went from cards and dice and that kind of type of gaming to the miniature side. So pros and cons of skirmish games. They look awesome because usually they have cool models, and there's not a lot of models to assemble, to buy, to paint. What else as far as a pro of a skirmish game is a lot? I mean, that's the main things, right?
It's a game and a hobby all in one.
We've talked about games that you get into. I think with skirmish games, you can get into a skirmish game, but that doesn't become your entire hobby. Where like full battle games, like if you get into that, that's all you do.
Yeah.
Is that one game. Where skirmish games, you can still do like 4 or 5 skirmish games because financially and time-wise, you can support it.
You're
And the new model lately of bring your own miniature basically type games where if you have a bunch of sci-fi soldiers, you can use them in like 2 or 3 different systems.
Well, we'll talk about that too, but even just other I mean, would you say that we're in 2020 now, not to date the podcast, but there's a level of quality expected now with miniature gaming. I don't think you can get by half-assing it. If you call yourself a board game that has miniatures, fine. No assembly, whatever. You don't have to paint them. Fine, put that aside. But if you're a skirmish game, you're selling models, there's assembly, there's painting expected. There's a level of expectation for good-looking models at this point, right?
Oh, yeah.
And materials, none of this really bad bendy resin. That won't fly anymore.
The PVC models you don't want to see.
I think it's the other side of the curve where we went through a phase where now with Kickstarters and crowdfunding, everyone has access to pump all these games out. You have so many choices now that game stores can't even support them all. But then we came to the other side of like, okay, well now we have so many choices, I'm going to choose better quality stuff.
You brought up a point, Xtreme. I'm going to throw 2 cons out there, skirmish games, see if you guys agree. Supporting game stores, as in a 2-way support street there, and too many to choose from. Would you guys agree those are cons or no?
Yep.
It's crazy to think of them as cons, but yeah. They are.
Yeah, in many ways you're right. Yeah.
If you know, right now, Biran and Valdric go to Grognard games, you know, pre-COVID, weekly, sometimes twice a week. Yes, you're friends with the owner, but even if you're not, there's a level of disconnect if you keep playing games that they don't sell. And on the flip side, if they don't sell the games you want to play, like it's a 2-way street. And more often than not, those 2 things do not line up. Can you guys think of skirmish games you've went all in on that have been supported by the store and then vice versa? Like the store buys a bunch so then people will play?
Kill Team and Crisis.
You can't count Kill Team. You can't.
Crisis Protocol then.
Fine, that's fine. Kill Team's Games Workshop 40K. That's
right.
Crisis Protocol.
I think a lot of the like bigger skirmish games get popular, like I would say Crisis Protocol and stuff. They have like the initial boom, like the initial like, oh, this is the new hotness or whatever the hell you want to call it, and everyone buys into it and the game stores support it, and then it seems to die off because the next one comes.
Yeah, the next one of a different game, not a new edition, you mean? Yeah. Isn't it? It's weird when, like, we get into Wild West Exodus, okay? There's already stuff on clearance because they're going from Outlaw Miniatures to War Cradle or whatever. And we get in, and it seems to be supported, but then we kind of get out. People get in, get out. It's like it's very, in a weird way, a war game is a commitment, but a skirmish game isn't. And that's good and bad. I mean, if you're that company that made the game, you know people are going to play other shit. They're going to. Some people, it's a game you get into, it's all they play. But for the most part, they play other shit. But I mean, at what point, maybe it was a Kickstarter, and now we don't have, I don't know, the infrastructure in place to keep it going. Like what, you know, that things collapse all the time. Have you had games where that's happened before, where you're just, it's been too difficult to keep up, so you just say fuck it?
Well, yeah, I say keep up. I don't mean keep. I mean keep it alive. Sorry, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, like you said, it's with skirmish games, it's easy to get into them. It's also that makes it easy to get out of it too, because you're like, I'm not playing this anymore. What was that one that came out right before COVID by War Cradle?
Mythos?
Because what?
Mythos?
Mythos, yeah. We bought some of the stuff, but then COVID happened and we didn't get a chance to play it, and now it's like I doubt we'll ever play it. But
because why? Why won't you play it?
The iron is no longer hot.
Yeah.
We're a fickle bunch.
Yeah, we really are. I mean, there's new stuff coming out, but
that's you guys. Do you think you speak for more? I
No.
think,
no, not at all.
I think you might. And I'll tell you why. I know you like to think you are, Biran level elite status, but I think many others share, maybe not the fickle level of switching, but the pick and shoot. Like, well, we didn't get in then, so I don't want to get in now. Not a switching, more of a it passed us by, and maybe you watch the train go and you don't want to hop on anymore because it's like, well, they're not making any more factions. I heard the company's having problems. There's always some kind of like bullshit. I think skirmish gamers in general probably think more similar to you, Biran, than you think, in that not fickle, but the no problem saying next. I think they do that.
There are some. Would you classify? What's it called? The Corvus Belli game, anime.
Oh, Infinity.
Infinity. That's a skirmish game.
Oh, no question.
And it's still at our shop. I don't know how it is around you. Popular with a set group of people.
Does Todd Ragnar carry models?
He pretty much orders on demand.
Yeah.
And they buy from him then?
Yeah.
That is a game that a lot of people get into. So.
Yeah. Because there's so many weebs out there.
There's it takes a lot of time to put together one of those models. So I think just like.
Well, you should, and they come in with a U-Haul truck full of scenery.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing about skirmish games, I found that is probably the area, whatever you want to call it, category of games that I fall in love with the most. But it's always like the games that no one else is playing. So then I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to put all the energy in to getting this started. But then when it like actually comes down to it, like, no, I'm not. Like, I just wasted all this money getting into this game. I don't want to go and convince 3 or 4 other people to get into it either. Like, that was it.
No, you're totally right. Pachow championing the game episode, talking about how do you do that? How do you you think a game is so fucking cool? You're like, oh, art, the background, the models, the rules are streamlined rules. I only need 6 guys. Like, it's so awesome. Who the fuck is gonna play? And how do you cultivate a group that plays that? Huge con I hate to attach that con to skirmish games, but I'm going to, because there's so many out there. Xtreme. Can you think of, on top of your head, there's probably 2 or 3 that you've tried in the last couple of years that you tried your best and it just didn't happen?
Well, I mean, not necessarily ones that I've tried even. Yes, I've definitely tried 2 or 3 in the last few years, but there's so many more that I want to be the game that I get into. I really, really want Dracula's America to be a cool game that I get into, but I'm going to have to cultivate the whole scene around it, get people into it, get them to buy, get them to go through the hurdles of getting it. It's just too much for me right now.
So the president is Dracula? I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not too far off from what we're used to, but
yeah.
I think that game has a chance if you put the work in Xtreme, because of the Osprey style of that. I think that game is there's no skirmish game unless it's made by a giant company that's easy to get people into. But that one's on the easier side of the lesser known ones, because of Osprey's got enough history with their games that they're almost a hipster level of games, I think.
So something else that I don't know, just put it out there as a thought, 3D printing has become more and more popular. I've seen the local guys in my group that usually spend hundreds of dollars at the game store a week, they all have their own 3D printers now, and they're printing. And my first thought was, holy shit, is the game store going to close because you're printing all your own models now? But maybe that also
you got to buy
helps.
one just to start. It's like, I'll buy that one up there. Like, just one? Yes, I only need one model today, sir. And then you take it home and you work your magic.
But maybe that also helps support the Osprey style of games where you supply your own models, because they just go through all the different files, find the model they want, print it out, and bring it to the store. It's not helping the game store, but maybe it's helping that game.
If I worked at a game company, I would do my best to embrace 3D printing. I don't do it. It's not for me. I don't own one. I've bought 3D models online before, like Shapeways and whatever different parts. But you have to embrace that, because that's kind of like part of a lot of this right now. Unless your price point is so low and your model count's so low, it's like, well, I could 3D print them, but I only need 5 guys. Fuck it, they're all in one box. But you're right, Xtreme. That's a huge thing going on right now, and it's only going to get better and better as the quality keeps improving.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the miniature industry in general is going to have to do something, because it's becoming more and more accessible for normal people to get them. But I think especially for like the Osprey style games where you can use whatever models you want, like it almost directly ties in.
Like I could envision a day where you buy the book and here's a code to download STL files for your 3D printer.
I'm sure it exists already. I mean, I bet it has.
The problem is, like, it's one thing to print out scenery with a filament printer, but to print out actual miniatures, I think to get anything decent quality, you need a resin one, and there's lots of barriers for that still.
Yeah.
But it's getting easier. Like
it's still fussy as hell though. I think we're still several years out.
Depends on who has access and who doesn't.
Right.
Here's the thing though. I've bought a couple of painted models online before that were 3D printed. They look fucking perfect. They look like they could have been plastic or metal. Yet I've seen scenery where you get the rounds the whole time.
Striations, yeah. There are 3D printers that produce just as good a quality.
Yeah.
Brian, some of the Kingdom Death models I had you paint, those were 3D printed. And they look amazing.
Yeah, you can't see any kind of
striation. Yeah. Because they're resin, it's a different process.
Yeah.
So Skirmish Games, obviously we could talk forever about them. There's a lot of great pros about it and some cons. Let's go a little round table, talk about, if you can't pick one, two is fine. Our favorites and why. Biran, why don't you lead us off? Are you the producer, by the way? You asked earlier who our producer was.
No, I said their producer is better than our producer. Meaning I'm the producer.
I just
Xtreme was.
Xtreme's the producer. You're the editor.
Yeah, you're the editor.
Well, their editor's better than ours.
Okay.
I thought he was a producer.
No, you're the one that makes lists. He does all the grunt work.
I'm the executive producer.
All right.
Xtreme is I mean, I don't know what he is. I really don't.
Spreadsheet.
While we're talking about Xtreme, I just thought of this. I know when this episode is supposed to drop. This is also the birthday episode for Xtreme.
Is this the year where he doesn't have to help people move anymore?
This is the 40th birthday episode for Xtreme. Because this one's going to come out. What day is your birthday, Xtreme? 13, 14?
15.
15. What day of the week is that?
I don't know.
This is going to come out right before that, I believe. So this is Xtreme's birthday episode. Let's all be nice to him. If he wants to be called list maker, whatever, call him that.
Should we give him some 40-year-old tips? Like, when you turn 40, sometimes when you poop and wipe, there's going to be blood there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, maybe like...
sometimes a lot of blood.
You thought you shook your dick enough. Turns out you didn't. Oh, well, get back to your life. You know?
And when you finish...
I feel like I've already experienced that. I've started to notice that change already.
Okay. You're playing with it. Like, okay, asshole. No, I don't want to play with it. I'm just trying to fucking move along. You know? You don't have to help people move if you don't want to. That's kind of nice.
Yep.
Saying, oh, my back. You just stay your fucking back. No one's going to question it.
Like, you're 40, you should be able to pay for movers.
Yeah. Then someone says, 40 is actually like the new 30. You can help.
No.
Mike, are you 50 yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I thought so. Is
Of
50,
all of us, Mike's probably the most likely to assist someone in moving, though.
yeah, but he would probably he would work smarter, not harder.
He would carry the lamp.
Like, I do nothing till the dolly arrives. Like, we could fucking carry this. Why?
I was going to help you, but where's the straps?
Right. Wait for the fucking thing. You bring me a hand truck and we'll fucking do it. Oh, you don't even have enough air in it? You're not going to take that out with that. Let's not start until we get it right. Anyway.
I've lived that story very recently. I moved my son into college, and we had to sign up to get a cart, and they put us on a waiting list. They're like, we'll call you when the cart's available. I'm like, screw that. I'll have everything upstairs before the cart's available. So I ended up making 8 trips up the stairs with all this shit by myself, and then the cart was available.
That's because you weren't 40 yet.
Have you ever had it, though, where, like, you're using someone else's cart, and then the whole thing sinks? Like, why aren't these tires filled up properly? And, like, no one's ever thought of that? Like, well, you're not supposed to lift something heavy. No, that's exactly what you're supposed to do with that.
If it's not heavy, I don't need a cart.
It's only for heavy stuff. Anyway, so Xtreme, happy birthday on the official episode of your birthday.
Thank you.
Biran,
Yeah.
You know what? Fuck off. We're going to have Xtreme go first with
All right.
Skirmish Games.
With Skirmish Games.
What, Mike, you just got really blurry. Are you drinking? What's going on over there?
No, I think the light got bad. Here, hold on a second.
You look like a bad 3D printed Mike.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
You look like I think it's Mike, but it's a little off. He's like,
It's like Mike's stunt double.
right. It's like, I think it's Mike. He has a flannel, but his face is fucked up. Okay.
I was
Is
like,
it
all of
the
a sudden,
main
I got really
feature?
blurry too, and I'm like, now I just look red.
That's all right. That comes with 50 as well. You get redder. You look like smoke. Biran, because you had smoke coming out of his fucking
Yeah,
ears.
yes, I can.
Woo,
All
got
right,
endless.
Xtreme, tell me about your favorite skirmish games.
All right, so I have tons. It's easily the category of games that I'm attracted to the most. There's so many that I like. So I have like one weird honorable mention that's not really a skirmish game. Then I have my real one.
Okay.
So War Machine, played at a skirmish level. Nobody does it, but I think it's so much fun and I love it. And that's how I originally got into the game when the first edition of the game came out. Like they did the demo at the booth, and that demo level of the game is so much fun, and it plays so quick. You're done in 15, 20 minutes. You just line up
Yeah.
to play again. But nobody plays at that level,
well,
so it's not
on
really a
that-
skirmish game.
Well, joke's on them. No one plays anyway.
It's neither skirmish nor war game because it doesn't exist.
It's a no game.
When it first came out and started getting popular, I actually thought it was only a skirmish game because the people I saw playing it seemed to have less, like 10 or less models.
Yeah.
Before, like one caster. Am I doing it right?
Or caster.
A couple of jacks, whatever. It wasn't only until like maybe, I don't know, Beef Goat era for us, like 6 years ago, where I started to notice people play this as a war game. I actually thought it was only a skirmish game for years, though.
Well, originally when I got sucked into the game the first time, many, many years ago, it was a skirmish game. And then, I was reading the no quarters, and I was like, oh, there's new releases coming. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall, like, oh, this is going to become a bigger game than I want, because I was so happy with it at a small level. And then it got bigger, and I stopped playing, and then I got back into it as a war game. But as a skirmish level game, it is so much fun.
In that game, are you allowed to paint your miniatures? Is there a penalty for doing so?
You actually lose. They take away battle points at the end if you're painted.
I mean, I've played every single game I've played fully painted.
Yeah. Do you still play?
I don't.
How
Okay.
many tournaments did you win?
Hey,
with that?
you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong.
I've
You're doing
played
the hobby wrong.
I think I went to 3 tournaments. No, my experience at tournaments is a topic for another time, but
Did you win Best Painted?
they didn't have that award.
Oh, man.
Shockingly.
Could have won that. So, Xtreme, it's your birthday episode, so you can pick that if you want. War Machine, if you want.
Well, that's
But
like
That's
like
a
my
battle
bullshit
game, though, right?
thing. It's a war game.
It's a war game.
Yeah, it's not designed to be a skirmish game, but if you play it at a skirmish level, I think all of the 4 of us would have fun playing it, because it's really fun at that level.
I'm defying it because I don't want Biran to pick Legion. Nothing wrong. I mean, that's.
Oh, I wouldn't because it's the same rule set, so I wouldn't count it.
Yeah, it's a war game. But I appreciate your love for that game, Xtreme. It's in the past now, right? You don't love it anymore.
I don't see myself playing it anymore, but I've also considered retiring from gaming completely. So who knows?
What about this show? Are you gonna stay on the show?
Sure. I mean, somebody has to bring all the rankings down.
He is producer too.
If you don't play any games, is every game a 1 by default?
Sure. Why not?
So for you going forward, if you quit, which I know you won't, you can have, if you blow out the candles, listen, when you blow out the candles to your birthday, I don't know what you're going to wish for. If you wish for no more gaming, that's on you. But if that ever happens, every game from that point forward for you is Biran's a Blood Bowl. A 1.
I mean, I think, is that our only one as Zlurpcast as a group? So, yeah, see, I've never even gone that low.
You've done 1.5.
I have, yeah. I wanted to go lower, but the fluff of that game bumped it up 0.5 point.
So, as a true skirmish game, Xtreme, what would be your favorite?
True skirmish game, Blood Bowl.
What?
It's the only skirmish style game that I got completely into.
We're going to have a sports game episode.
Yeah, I might mention it again.
Fine.
It's his birthday.
I might mention it for 3 categories. Who knows?
It's his fucking birthday. Pretend you're like 12-year-old Xtreme. You got a Super Nintendo under the tree for Christmas, whatever. Go nuts. Say Blood Bowl's a skirmish game. Go ahead.
Blood Bowl's a skirmish game. It's my choice.
There's no measuring. Okay.
So Dead Zone's not a skirmish game?
No.
I'm not familiar with that one. It's your birthday. Do whatever you want. Let's go to Biran now.
My favorite's an easy one. It's Kill Team. Because every time I buy something for Kill Team, I can further justify it saying, maybe I'll start a 40K army with these guys next. Yeah. I ran that campaign and had a lot of fun with it. I'm actually considering running another one once everything comes back to normal. I think it'll be fun. I hope they release an update with the new rules and for the new units.
Are you surprised it took GW it took them a long time to truly make Kill Team a thing?
Yeah, because they had like the previous Kill Team and then Combat Patrol that.
Yeah, you gotta understand. I know you don't have the 40K history like that, but I mean, Kill Team has been mentioned rules-wise since, and someone's gonna probably correct me, but I'm pretty sure 4th edition is when, like, you could also play Kill Team. You could also play Combat Patrol. And they introduced these smaller games that rarely people did it. The only time I ever did it back in the day were like multiplayer battles. But for a straight, let's get together, no, man, we're playing 40K every single time.
We're going to get a turn and a half in, and then the store's going to close.
Right, exactly. Or at someone's house, someone shits on the floor. Yeah. Either one of the two.
Now, the previous Kill Teams, were they more like just scaled down versions of 40K, or were they unique versions?
Completely scaled down.
Yeah. That's why I wouldn't include that before this version, just like we were talking about Legion.
Yeah.
It doesn't qualify because it's just a scaled down war game.
Kill Team is a skirmish game now. It stands on its own feet. It is has all the things that define a skirmish game, but also a feeder to 40K, but it doesn't have to be.
But it feels like the flavor of it, not just theme-wise, but how attacking and stuff works, feels like 40K, but it's different enough.
Yeah. Well, what I like about it is I probably would never make a Tau army for 40K, but I could do a Kill Team with just stealth suits because I think that would look cool. Like, you can do that with Kill Team. You can pick a unit, a model, and make a thing out of it. I'm going to make the A-Team. I'm going to make G.I. Joe. I'm going to do a theme. I'm going to make a thing. You can do that with Kill Team, and the commitment level of going higher, that's up to you. So I agree.
Kill Team's like 40K for Tinder users. You just want to swipe, have some fun, and then swipe away.
Yeah.
I want to like Kill Team so much, but it's too much 40K.
You don't like the back and forth. I hit you. Did I wound you? Did you save? Did you?
Right. I like the model count. I like the GW models. I want to play Sisters. I want to like Kill Team so much, but I just can't.
You would like Schomburg Kill Team.
Maybe.
Wait, is that like a LARP?
Yes.
What is that?
Yeah.
Is that what happens at rush hour on Higgins?
Roselle and Schomburg is vicious.
Yeah.
The other game I put on there, I apologize to Mike if you're going to take this one, is Relic Blade, which Pachow we also reviewed.
I should have brought it up. I just got the book in the mail. It says it's a drawing of half of a battle pig.
Yeah.
And he said, "Thank you, Jonathan, Sean." And I thought that was very nice. Like,
does that anytime you buy something from, even if you buy a model, he'll throw an index card with a piece of art and his signature on it.
so I saw he drew the head and the arm of the battle pig, and I'm like, I didn't spend enough.
Right.
I only bought the rule book because I'm just like, I'm not going to play it right now, but I want to add it to the shelfie, and I want to have it because I gave it a 4. I can't give a game a 4 and not own the fucking rule book. But then I'm like, man, if I would have bought a starter, I could have got a torso out of that drawing.
It was a game that surprised me how much we ended up liking, because Tony started a campaign for us, and we were able to get 2 games in a night easy, like even just dicking around like we tend to do. We get 2 games in, and we finished campaign in like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And
When we started the 2 games, because we're like,
these are easy and fast, and then we're like, well, let's do another campaign right now. And so we ended up doing 2 back to back.
It's a game that after looking through the rules and watching videos, talking to you guys, like, if I was there, I'd love to play it. It looks awesome. I mean, I can't say anything bad about it. I mean, I might experiment with some other models because it's all metal, and I do have what's the word? Not aversion.
Yeah, aversion. That's what I was thinking.
I have an aversion to metal models.
They're not bad, at least, to put together. A lot of them are one piece.
I think the battle pigs would probably be my choice, and those are probably a nice chunk, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, they're great.
I'm doing the fish people next.
Those are cool. Those new dwarves look awesome, though.
Yeah.
I really like them. Great game. Great choice. Before I go to Valdric, this is not a game review episode. This is a filler, a bullshit episode, a garbage episode, a fucking trash episode. Sorry, Xtreme, it's your birthday. I don't mean to put all those negatives out there. I hope with our birthday episodes, they're game reviews. I'm sorry yours wasn't. Yours is a trash episode. But Mike and I have had eight in a row of same reviews of games. And maybe it'll get broken next time, maybe it won't. I don't know. Before I ask you what your favorite is, Mike, I have a feeling it's mine as well. And I have a feeling we've tied on this as well. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and then after 3, not on 3. We got to get this straight. 1, 2, 3, blow.
Oh, so it's like the Manhattan Project with Jonathan Lithgow. Do you remember that movie?
No.
It's where the kid steals the nuclear material from the lab of his mom's boyfriend, who's John Lithgow, and he makes an atomic bomb as a school project. And there's a scene in there where the bomb's about to go off and they have to cut the wires, 6 of them at the identical same time. And they have that same bit came up. It's like, all right, 1, 2, 3 and cut. And he goes, do we cut on 3 or do we go 1, 2, 3, then cut?
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim.
Okay. That was his project. Did he get an A? Or
no, I think he probably went to federal prison.
Or maybe an H, depending on type of bomb.
Yes.
They had to cut 6 wires at the same time?
Yes.
I don't understand.
Because the plastic explosive that he learned to shape in the shape of a soccer ball to provide the right force for the thing to ram the thing in a nuclear bomb, he used photostrobes to set it off, and he needed 6 separate ones to detonate simultaneously to do the shape charge of the plastic explosive into the plutonium ball to send it into the other thing.
This movie sounds like it was made between 1980 and 1984.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only because it sounds so fucking dumb. No offense to Jonathan.
Oh, it is. It's a classic.
Yeah.
It's a good double feature with Real Genius with Val Kilmer.
John Lithgow, Skirmish Gamer, probably.
I see. Yes. Yeah.
Probably. Okay, Mike. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, blow on our favorite skirmish game. Ready? Mike, ready? Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. You froze on me. I thought we had another episode. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Frostgrave.
That was almost simultaneous. I think
I
he
know.
waited for you to start and spit it out.
So Mike, go first then.
I'm kind of, because I was like Frostgrave or Mordheim, the two
Oh.
games that I probably put the most effort into.
The Pachow guy, Minions, Adam Smasher, he said, is Frostgrave the new Mordheim in a video? And he kind of said, you know what? It kind of is. It kind of is the new Mordheim. It's funny you mentioned that because he was saying it directly opposed, I think, to Warcry isn't the new Mordheim.
No,
not at all.
Frostgrave is more Mordheim than Warcry is. So anyway, go. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted that makes sense of why you said that.
Yeah, but the problem with Frostgrave, well, I would consider, because there's other games in that with that same style. There's Archipelago and the Rangers of Shadow Deep, and in some ways those are actually a little bit better. But with Frostgrave, the only thing that advances is your wizard. And like you have said in the past, if you don't want to play a wizard, you're kind of out of it. But the flip side of that is Mordheim. When your characters advance, you start getting the overpowered thing. So
Mordheim,
and there was a lot of just bad rules that came out afterwards.
Mordheim it suffers from nostalgia with fans though.
Yeah. Everyone's like, Mordheim was the best game ever. It's like, no, it really, no.
It's the same thing that happened to, like when Necromunda back in the day, like they came out with extra stuff and it wasn't balanced.
No,
Mordheim was it Skaven that were too good?
No, it was the dwarves, and then when the Amazons came out, they were basically Space Marine, and all the dark elves, and the dwarves were bad enough, and then it just got worse.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to play Mordheim with you because the War Realm split occurred.
Yeah, the War Realm split.
And we went our way, and Mike, unfortunately, joined the other team. It's okay. We're cool now. And that group played Mordheim, and we didn't. But I had a Witch Hunter warband, the guy with the fish, all that stuff. Yeah. And I was going to paint him like Gangs in New York, that gang, that'd be kind of cool to do that whole thing. But it looked awesome. Now, Frostgrave, though, would you say for a Mordheim fanatic, scratches all your itches, even though it's wizard focused?
Yeah, I think because you're still doing all the Mordheim-y stuff. You're collecting things, you're killing other models, but you're probably not going to die. You do have the strongholds, and there's little side things on the end when you do the searches. There's a post-game sequence and all of that. So. And, it is miniature. It's miniature agnostic, so you can use whatever you want. So, although they do make their own miniatures, and they're great. So,
cultists are awesome in that game.
What?
The cultist miniatures?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mike, did I sold you my Warcry stuff? Did you get that from me?
Oh, yeah.
Some of the guys had the hats.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll just bounce off everything Mike said. It's a great game. It's designed very well. I very much like every Osprey game I really read about and get into. Like, even if I don't play, just reading every page. Something about those games has like a throwback appeal to me. I don't know what, like a very much like your imagination. It's almost like I don't want to play D&D. I don't want to play role-playing games. But it has all that kind of stuff that I like. I get to come up with whatever the fuck I think is cool. There are, modifiers to dice rolls at the D20. It's got like, I don't know, everything I could want in a game. And if you want to do more to make it more complex, like when Mike, and I don't mean complex as a bad word, but Mike added in ways for your regular dudes to increase and all that kind of stuff. Like, you can do whatever you want. It's such a like open system to do anything. Yeah. And I think about awesome models like that I have, like my Warhammer Underworlds Beastmen warband has a shaman, has a fighter, a bunch of little guys with bows, Ungors. I would use them in Frostgrave. They're a phenomenal looking gang, a warband for Frostgrave that I can say, okay, you fit as this, you can become this, and then you can find things that match. And I'm sure the other games Osprey does have similar things, but for me, I mean, it's a fantasy game. We all like fantasy settings. It gives a little twist because it's the frozen city and all that stuff. It's not straight up like how other games say, well, let's just do a typical fantasy whatever. Like, this has a little bit of its own thing, but then essentially you go anywhere. You could even do like everybody in your group, let's all pick a different wizard, not class, but school of
magic or whatever.
Yeah. We all pick a different one that, you can do all that kind of stuff. So it's almost like a DIY, it's like a do your own kind of thing with it. But like we talked about in the Champion in the Game episode, you're going to have some dedicated people to get behind it. It doesn't have a GW level support, but those games, Osprey games, are getting to the point of, yes, I know what it is, and yes, I will play. And Frostgrave right now is probably the leader of those. Gaslands is getting close though, as far as
Gaslands has
I know our Michigan friends are fans of it.
Yeah, like I know what that is. Yes, I'll play. As opposed to, hey, have you seen this? The book? Like, no, people already know about it. So I think it's phenomenal. It's a great game.
I'd like to see them do, and I know second edition is out or coming out very soon.
It's out, yeah.
Where instead of a wizard, like you still have your wizard, but have like each of the archetypes as a warband leader. Like you could have my warband is led by a barbarian, and mine. I think that would be a fun twist on it. Make each archetype.
Yeah, you could. I mean, they want to make the wizard the leader still, but I know in mine when we played, I actually had a barbarian I hired, and so he was my default like go-to guy. Mm-hmm. But I actually like that it's wizard focused. I like that a lot because you just don't see that in a lot of games unless you play a wizard character because you want to. But the fact that all of us, we all have our main guy as a wizard. I think that's kind of cool. You just don't see that.
And in Rangers of Shadowdeep, whatever it's called, game, it's your archetype is a fighter. They're called Rangers, but it can be a thief. You can make it whatever you want, basically. So,
Xtreme, what were you gonna say?
Sorry.
I don't have the experience with the game that you do, but I've read a lot about it. I actually have a fully painted warband ready to go, but I just never got a chance to play. But I always really liked the idea, again, with no game experience, of having one wizard be the only person that, because I saw that as like your role-playing element, like you are the wizard, and then the other people are. But I really like what Brian was saying too, where you can have like different archetypes, where there's just like one character that's the only character that's advancing, but that's still the leader of your group. That would be pretty cool too.
Yeah, you have an apprentice, so there's that doing some of it too. But then I don't know. I like you can have the barbarians in there, but they don't get to call the shots.
I just never like playing a spellcaster in any game.
That's why this game's great though, because it's something different. So if you don't like that, then you don't like it. But I think it's kind of cool. Usually they're never the leader. They're the guy you have to save and protect and don't let anything happen to him. Now he's the guy that's like, I'm going to move you away from that fucking treasure, and then one of my guys will go and grab that. Usually it's the other kind of way around. So I think it's great. There's plenty of other skirmish games out there that we all love that we're going to talk about. I know Biran's a big Malifaux guy, for example. But we'll kind of cut part one off here. There'll be a part two coming out next week, and we are going to cover the other types of games. No spoilers, just a tease. I'm not going to name any names of games, but war games, board games with miniatures. That's different. Dungeon crawl games, maybe even role-playing games. Maybe, probably not. I don't know. We'll see. So go to Zlurpcast.net. Get yourself a shirt like Mike's wearing. Show it off, Mike. Fashion show at work. Look at that. Blurry as fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Hold it. If he doesn't move, then we're good. It looks like Biran's left nipple is right at your nipple. Your left nipple, too.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, lined up.
Yeah.
Get yourself all kinds of stuff. Fucking coasters. Coasters. I believe there's socks, leggings. When you get out of the shower, what do you call that? The mat by the shower?
Bath mat?
Shower mat? Yeah.
Bath mat.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
You step on it.
Cool.
It's a rug with a grippies on it, so it doesn't slide around in the bathroom.
Here's what you do. You step out of the shower. Wash everything, hopefully. You step out. You don't know what you stepped on there. You know it was soft. It felt nice on your feet. And then you get out. You go do your thing. And then you're like, Zlurpcast, where do I know those guys? Oh, yeah, I step on those fuckers every day.
They get the upskirt shot every day.
Yeah, I was going to say, they get the taint view.
Taint view every day, upskirts,
Guys and girls, I want to see it all.
No. So we will be back in part two talking about more games, pros and cons, and all that. Follow on social media as Zlurpcast. That's all I got. Bye, guys.
Zlurpcast! Brought to you by Zomboy. Eat flesh.